What is good, YouTube, man? Today I'm back with you guys with the nation for another video. And today, we got ourselves the first video of the Las Vegas Raiders off season. But before I get into today's topic, I have to give a big shout out yet again to my boy Icy Nate, always coming in clutch with these thumbnails, man. So please, if you can, go check out his YouTube page at icy_Nate. Show him some love, man. Show him that Raider Nation love, whether it's a like, a subscribe, whatever, man, a comment, whatever. But let's get straight into today's topic now. As you can see by the title and thumbnail, the Raiders, we have a pretty good amount of free agents this year now. I didn't add all the practice squad guys that were free agents. I just added the guys that were at one point on the 53-man roster, right? Now, there's a lot of them, right? Now, as we all know, the Raiders, we lost. We're moving forward. It's now the offseason. So, this is the first video, and what I want to talk about here is we have about 10 players right now that finish the season, no longer are with the Raiders under contract, and I'm gonna show you guys their how much they made. But I also want to ask you guys, do we bring them back for the same price? Do we bring them back for a little bit more? Do we bring them back for a little bit less? Or do we just let them walk? Now, I'm going to start off with one guy. He goes by the name of KJ Wright. KJ Wright this year signed with the Las Vegas Raiders on a one-year deal, earning himself $3.5 million. Now, KJ Wright didn't really see the field much outside of week one. Where he really got a lot of reps. But after that, Corey Littleton, Perryman, those were really the guys for the first half of the season. And then a couple injuries happened, and then Divine Diablo became the guy. Now, KJ Wright, he wasn't really in the mix much. And as we all know, we did bring in KJ Wright to be that veteran presence, to be the coach on and off the field for these young guys. But, $3.5 million, that's what he made this year. He is set to be a free agent. Do you guys bring him back? Do you guys bring him back for the same price, a little bit more, a little bit less? Me personally, man, I love to have him here. It was a fun ride with him, but if he wants anything close to that same amount of money, I'd say let him walk. If he'd want to be here, if he wants to stay, I'd offer him a $2 million deal, man, and that's about it. If not, loved it. It was a great ride with you, but time to keep it pushing, my brother. Now, one that maybe I should have waited for a little bit longer to talk about, but it's a quarterback, Marcus Mariota, right? As we all know, he signed a 2-year deal he didn't sign a 2-year deal, but he was with the Las Vegas Raiders last year, earning himself $11 million last year, took an $8 million pay cut to stay with us this year. Now, earning himself $3.5 million, same money as KJ Wright, a backup quarterback, a guy who was really implemented in our scheme down the stretch, right? He wasn't really implemented in the beginning of the season, but down the stretch, he really got himself some good reps. Now, I'm not sure if that's a good amount of film for him to go get a starting job somewhere, but, $3.5 million, I'm not sure that he'll take that again. Only 28 years old. He is a serviceable quarterback, and there's many teams that can use his services, in my opinion. You got Washington that should have a decent amount of money. You have maybe other teams that'll want him as a gadget guy as well. Me personally, if Mariota would like to stay again I'd give him close to $5 million. I felt like the $3.5 million pay cut was a bit extreme. Honestly, I was surprised that he took it. I'd pay him up to $5 million to be DC's backup, to yet again have a bigger role in the offense. But at the same time, I'm thinking a more incentive-based deal. So maybe a $5 million base and heavy incentive-based contract. I don't know. That could be too much. That could be too little. But honestly, I think Mariota will walk out this building, and he will be with another team next year. Now, next on the list is Jonathan Hankins. He made $3.5 million last year with us. Dealt with some back injuries, but overall, a pretty good, solid run-stopping defensive tackle. I don't know. $3.5 million, when you look at it on paper, not that bad of a deal, especially for a decent run stopper like him. But there were times where he honestly didn't look that good against the run. and he's getting up there in age, you know, $3.5 million. I would like to keep him around, but I'm not sure if I would do it at the same price. I'd probably bring it down a couple notches, maybe to 2.5, 2.7, maybe even 3 million. But I would like to keep him around, but I want to see a different defensive tackle coming in this offseason. And that's for another video, right? But staying on topic, yeah, I don't know. What would you guys give Jonathan Hankins for him to return to the Raiders? Do you guys want him to return to the Raiders? What's your guys' thoughts on Jonathan Hankins? Next on the list is a guy who didn't even play one freaking down for us this year. He signed a one-year deal with us this last offseason that we just had, and he goes by the name of Nicholas Morrow. He made $4.5 million. And he didn't play one snap this year. He did not play one snap, and I know it was due to injury. But I think his time with the Raiders, you know, he's going to be 28. I think it's done, you know, especially if there's going to be a new defensive coordinator. There's not really going to have much rapport with Nicholas Morrow. I feel like he'd really have to have some really good film that a new defensive coordinator would like for Nicholas Morrow to stick around, and definitely not for another $4.5 million. I would move on. I would move on, especially that you got a great young emerging linebacker in Divine Diablo. I'm not sure, but me personally, I would just let him move on. I wouldn't even offer him a contract personally unless it's a very team-friendly deal. But Divine Diablo seems to be doing just fine. Nicholas Morrow, sorry, once a Raider, always a Raider, but I just don't see us re-signing this man. But the next person on the list I feel like is a must re-sign. This guy was out the league for 2 years, came back, got a chance with Gus Bradley, and he's put amazing film up this year, and it's very good to see the Las Vegas Raiders get a guy like Darius Philon under contract for only $990,000, not even $1 million. And the production that Philon had was really good. So me personally, only 28 years old, I definitely re-signed Philon, maybe close to the $2.5 to $3 million range. I would like to see him on a 2-year deal. I'm not really a fan of the 1-year deals, because then you just stack up a bunch of free agents like we do this year. But definitely Darius Philon would be something that I will want us to bring back 110%. Now, the next player on the list is another defensive tackle. This one, also, he got hurt week 1, played a bit in the preseason, looked dominant. I was actually at that game when Gerald McCoy had a good dominant game against the 49ers in preseason. And yeah, Gerald McCoy earning himself $1.25 million this year. Not too much, you know, a veteran guy who had a three-year contract with the Cowboys after being released. And we did pick him up. We brought him in. He looked like he was going to be just fine until a big, bad quad injury. And I'm not sure, man. I'm honestly, this one's kind of up in the air for me. I would love for you guys to answer this one for me, you know, down in the comment section down below. What are your guys' thoughts on Gerald McCoy? Only making $1.2 million last year. Would you guys give him a contract around the same amount of money? If we are to re-sign Gerald McCoy, though, I would only want it to be a 1-year deal, you know, kind of take it one step at a time with him. He is getting up there in age. I wouldn't say the end of his career, but it might be that. And like I said, man, it's kind of weird because it was a quad injury. He's a big guy. Those can kind of be tougher for those guys to recover. Now, the next person I want to talk about, we acquired him mid-season after the tragic loss of Henry Ruggs, man. So, Deshaun Jackson, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do you bring back Deshaun Jackson? He did make $2 million last year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Me personally, I'm not sure. We gave a contract extension to a guy like Tyron Johnson. Tyron Johnson's young. He's fast. He's proven he can also stretch the field. Obviously not at the rate at Deshaun Jackson, but I don't know. I think that Deshaun Jackson wants to be a Raider. I really do. I know his mom has expressed that she wants him to stay. So if he'd come back, I would definitely accept it. I don't know if $2 million is what I'd go for, but if he'd take $2 million to keep him around, I'd say why not. Now, a guy that not many people, including myself, thought that he'd have this amount of production at the end of the year. You know, it was his time to step up. You know, with guys going down with injuries, with Bryan Edwards not being able to step up, it became Zay Jones time to step up, and guess what? He is a free agent this offseason, earning himself $2.5 million last year. This is a guy who's young, built a great relationship with our quarterback Derek Carr. You know, me personally, what I've seen from him down the stretch, I do want us to bring him back. I'd say that he'd probably get close to about $3.5 million this year. And I'd be pretty comfortable with that. You know, he's just a role player, but I'd say a 2-year deal, $3 million, 3.5. You know, nothing too crazy. But I definitely do think that with the production that he's put up this last month and a half, he definitely deserves a bump up from the $2.5 million, maybe to the 3, maybe to the 3.5. Who knows? But I'm proud of Zack Jones, man. He really stepped up this last second half of the season. Now, a guy who was quote-unquote washed, a guy who was quote-unquote trash, he's not good anymore, out of his prime, Casey Hayward, only making $3 million, didn't allow 1 touchdown this season, did only record 1 interception, but for $3 million, man, Casey Hayward was an absolute steal, was a bargain. I would love to sign Casey Hayward to a 2-year deal, obviously with a team option in the second year, where if he's not playing too well, then you can kind of get rid of him at no cost. But I would love to re-sign Casey Hayward. Now, the thing is, after him having such a productive season, $3 million is just not going to cut it for Casey Hayward. He's going to demand closer to at least $6.5 million, in my opinion, per year, at least. But I would do that. I would give him 6.5. I honestly would. I'd give him 6.5. You know, 2-year deal, $6.5 million, $13 million as the combined total, right, with the second year with a team option, so that if he's not performing like he was this year, by the year in 2023, you can let him go with no cost, right? So I would do that. Casey Hayward's definitely a guy I would like to bring back. I do want us to bring in another corner, but Casey Hayward, man, $3 million, an absolute bargain this year, and I'm happy with the production that he put up, and I'm hoping we can get that steady production yet again. I mean, $3 million, didn't give up 1 touchdown this year in coverage. That's freaking amazing. That is amazing. Now, next person I want to talk about is defensive tackle. I know we got a lot of them on here, but defensive tackle Solomon Thomas. Now, he had an extremely productive first 5 weeks, so first month and a half of the season. He was extremely productive. I believe he finished the season with 4 sacks. But like I said, those 3.5 to 4 sacks all were at the beginning of the season. Now, as you guys know, this wasn't a guy I was high on, and the way that he finished the season, I'm not really high on him, right? You know, Solomon Thomas, like I said, extremely productive and dominant for the first month and a half of the year, but we're talking about 11 weeks went by, and he was just a ghost. He was nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found, and he made $4 million last year. Definitely, for that price, would not keep him around again. If he wants, he can take a $2 million deal, but that's about as much as I'd give him. I felt like the $4 million with up to $5 million in incentives was absolutely crazy. I honestly did feel like that was insane of a deal last year. I mean, he made more money than Deshaun Jackson, Casey Hayward, Nicholas Morrow, Mariota, KJ Wright. I mean, he was making a lot of money, and I understand first month and a half extremely productive, but second half of the season he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything at all. And I like I said, I'd keep him around. It seems like the guys in the locker room love him, but I'd be very, very limited and very, very tight with the amount of money that I'd give him this offseason if I were the Raiders. Now, $4 million, like I said, not a big fan of the contract, but not my money. I don't make the contract. So if they want to keep him around for another $4 million, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But next person on this list that I want to talk about, this right here, in my opinion, is no questions asked. You have to re-sign him. Quentin Jefferson, number 77, defensive tackle, only making $3.25 million last year. This is a must re-sign. Him, Max Crosby, Yannick, Phylon, those guys right there are freaking disruptive. Quentin Jefferson was huge down the stretch, getting big plays, big pressure, sacks, tackles for loss. He was doing it all, as well as Darius Philon. Like, these guys right here, man. Quentin Jefferson, I'd love to see him on a 2-year deal. I think 3 years is a little bit too much, but I would love to see him get a 2-year, $10 million deal, $5 million a year. I would love it. I would love it. I'd absolutely love it. So much production is what he did this year. He produced so much. He brought a lot of pressure down the stretch, and I mean, he brought that level-headedness to the locker room, right? You know, he's played in the biggest stage with Seattle. He played last year in Buffalo when they went to the playoffs, right? And I really love Quentin Jefferson, man. So if I could re-sign the man ASAP, no Rocky, man. Simple as that. Next person on the list didn't really play much at all this season. I think he was just on special teams for field goals, and that's Nick Martin. Nick Martin only making $1.25 million, not too much, but backup center, didn't do much. I'd let him go. You can go out, get a UDFA, and have Andre James as backup for Andre James for less than $1.25 million. Simple as that. I just wouldn't bring him back. I appreciate him for being here. Once a Raider, always a Raider. You already know that. But yeah, 1.25, almost $1.3 million. I mean, if he wants to come back for that price, I guess so. But like I said, you can go cheaper with an undrafted free agent. So that's what I do. But the last person on the list is another guy, kind of like Nicholas Morrow, who did not play at all this season after suffering a calf injury. It sucks because we 1,000% could have used him this season, especially since our run game was so poor at the beginning of the year well, honestly, for the first 2/3 of the season. Our running game was absolutely horrible, and Richie Incognito, man, made $2.1 million, absolutely nowhere to be seen. Definitely could have been used, but I don't know. His injury kept him out the whole year. Old in age. I mean, he's, 40 maybe now. I'm just not too sure, man. I do think that he'll probably end up retiring. Maybe he comes back, but I highly doubt it. I mean, I'm just not too sure with Richie Incognito. Like I said, making $2.1 million. I mean, for a backup, that's great. If he wants to come back, I'd do it again for $2.1 million, but definitely not with the impression of him starting or anything like that. You know, his injury kept him out a whole year. John Simpson is growing. Alex Leatherwood is only going to be able to grow a little bit more. So I'd keep it at what we got now. But, Raider Nation, those are all the players we talked about. KJ Wright, Marcus Mariota, Jonathan Hankins, Nicholas Morrow, Darius Philon, Gerald McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, Zay Jones, Casey Hayward, Solomon Thomas, Quentin Jefferson, Nick Martin, and Richie Incognito. All those guys, I gave you how much they made. How much do you guys think they should make? Do you want these guys back? Let me know in the comment section down below. Very, very soon in the future, man, I'm going to be talking about how we can make more money, how we can free up more cap space. All of that is coming soon, man. This is just the beginning of the offseason, y'all. I didn't want to go too far ahead in talking about available free agents. I wanted to talk about ours first and see where you guys are at. Which guys do you guys want us to bring back? Like I said, man, I want us to bring back a certain group of guys, but definitely not all these guys. Definitely not. But, Raider Nation, that'll be it for today's video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And I'm out. Peace.